Entering the medium together, Serenity and the four nobles find themselves on Jake's planet, the land of mounds and xenon. Roxy's house enters the land of pyramids and neon, and Dirk's apartment enters the land of tombs and krypton. These three new planets are just as inert as Jane's planet. There are no living consorts, and the underlings are only shambling skeletons. Roxy names Serenity Twinkly Herbert and tries in vain to speak with Calliope, who has died in her brother's predomination. The Alpha Kids split up and explore their lands, while waiting for the prophesied arrival of their Beta counterparts. 5 months pass. They do not build their houses up. Their Jack counts the days in prison on Prospect. Caliborn enters the medium, launching a game session that's even deader than the Alpha Kids session. His version of Skya is all clouded over. Caliborn sees a red light and finds Gamzee in front of its source, a radio antenna tower covered in monitors. Gamzee offers to be Caliborn's guide, but Caliborn shoots him on sight. At the tower's terminal, Caliborn is able to reply to Hussey, who has been interfering with his thoughts. Hussey challenges Caliborn to search his dead land for keys to unlock the monitors and see what they're broadcasting. With the help of Gamzee, who is still alive because you can't kill clowns, Caliborn will find a key to unlock his true quest. 5 months pass in the Alpha session. Jane, Jake, Roxy, and Dirk make no real game progress. They explore the medium a little, but the skeletons populating their lands are hard to kill and don't yield enough grist. The nobles spend what little they find on alchemy and totally neglect their server duties. 153 days into the Suburb Alpha session, their houses are no closer to the 7 gates than they were at entry. Then again, they're in a void session with no way to do the ultimate alchemy. Their Inciposphere has no battlefield, no frogs, and no forge. Why try to reach Skya when there's nothing at the center? Thanks to Calliope and the long-extinct consorts, the nobles know they have to wait for 4 more heroes to join their game before they can win. So they wait. The clown who once greeted Jane at her house has traveled to the other kids' houses and wrought more mischief with their sprites. He threw Aridin and Solix's bodies into Jake's Colonel Sprite, making Aerosol Sprite. He threw Feferi and Apeta's bodies into Roxy's Colonel Sprite, dashing Roxy's hopes of making Mom Sprite from the Paradox slime she collected in the lab. And on Lotac, Dirk's vigilance and dwindling stock of orange soda bribes are all that stand between his unprototyped Sprite and the last dismembered troll body in Gamzee's chest of whimsy. Jake has had enough of dating Dirk and has slipped home to Lomax. He calls up Jane, who is decorating cakes for her Sweet 16 at Roxy's house. Jake pours his heart out to Jane after ignoring her for weeks and forgetting her birthday invitation. It's painful for Jane to entertain the rambling, egotistical relationship woes of a boy who still can't see that she has feelings of her own. She blows up at him, smashes some stuff, and runs away to Loka. At home, Jane's misery increases when Caliborn jeers her out of the blue. Caliborn has started finding keys that unlock the video antenna towers in his dead session. These towers reward him with views of the Alpha session that he and Calliope were never able to see in the Trollian viewport. After seeing many of Jane's private moments, Caliborn tells her how pleased he is to see her get fat while her dad gets brutalized and killed in Durst jail. This is a lie, calculated to tip Jane into despair. Dad Crocker is fine. He's enjoying cushy VIP treatment and social media stardom on Durst because the draconian dignitary admires his business-like fashion sense. But Jane doesn't know that. Meanwhile, a second human gets put in jail. When Jane leaves Roxy alone with G-Cat, the first Guardian teleports Roxy straight to its master, the Condess. Roxy falls to Durst from a great height and gets knocked out. With no dream self, Roxy starts dreaming in a bubble. In her dream, she recalls writing Wizardy Herbert, a self-parodying novel about children at a magic summer camp, Herbert and Beatrix, who recognize that they are inside a story that represents little Roxy's earliest attempts at complacency fanfiction. Disguised as Twinkly Herbert the Firefly, Calliope's ghost enters the dream and leads Roxy into a silent sanctuary where she has been hiding ever since she died. Calliope greets Roxy wearing her Trollsona. She's uncomfortable being a cherub and would rather be a troll. Callie says that her brother has become Lord English. He is following an army of ghosts around the furthest ring, hoping to find and annihilate her soul. There are rumors that the Calliope he is looking for is one who predominated and died in a doomed timeline. Callie thinks she should look for this other Calliope too, but for now she's just hiding. Callie tells Roxy to focus on her game session. She says Roxy and the other nobles should go die in their quest bed crypts in order to reach the god tiers and prevail in the next day's battle. At this point, a dreaming Rose stumbles across Callie and Roxy's bubble. Callie panics, fearing the Seer of Light will draw attention to her hiding place. She shoos Rose and Roxy out to the waking world before they can get acquainted. Roxy wakes in a jail cell on Durst. She learns that Betty Crocker has a job for her. The courtyard droll gives Roxy the Black Queen's ring of orbs no fold, presumably to boost her voidy powers so she can do this job. But the job is stupid and impossible, and Roxy's not willing to help the cruel Batterwitch. Wearing the ring, Roxy learns how to become invisible and immaterial. She sneaks out of the Hag Slammer. While walking around unseen by the Durstites, she messages her co-players to tell them about god tiering. Alas, she's invisible online too. None of the kids read her messages. On Low-Tack, Little Hal wants to be put into the Colonel Sprite, but Dirk is not inclined to honor his promise. Dirk thinks his AI self already sabotages his relationships and controls his life too much without Sprite powers. In his bitterness, Dirk comes close to killing Autoresponder. By the time he backs down, Gamzee has gotten to the Colonel Sprite first. But Aqueous Sprite can receive one more prototyping, so Dirk throws AR in anyways, making Arqueous Sprite. Caliborn jeers Jake with the stated aim of grooming a worthy adversary. Caliborn says it is inevitable that the Lord of Time will come to dominate all of existence, no matter how much he must suffer and toil first. The Page of Hope, on the other hand, is worthless by default and must be given a free power-up before he can hope to challenge the Lord. Caliborn gives Jake the code for his old Juju, a wondrous object that can't be duplicated. It will leave Caliborn's possession once it has been created somewhere else. When combined with his sister's Juju, its effect will be great indeed. Caliborn would have combined them himself, but found Calliope's half missing. Instead, he parts with his half after welcoming an even better Juju into his life, Little Cal, which Gamzee dug out of the dead, dry earth. Caliborn has bonded with the puppet. He knows someday, somehow, he will use Little Cal to inflict his hideous soul on everybody who ever shares a universe with it. Jake doesn't want Caliborn's hand-me-downs. He passes the code on to Jane. At the same time, Jane receives a single message from Calliope. Before she died, she followed a suggestion from Skya's Cloud Visions and sent the miserable birthday girl the code for her old Juju. So Jane finds herself holding both codes. Jane reads these messages on the only communicator she has left, a Crocker Corp tiara top, which makes her available to the Baroness's tacky style of mind control. She throws off the tiara in disgust, but doesn't break it like she broke her other devices. Jane makes the Juju items. They are both lollipops, and they fuse together, forming a sucker colored with a red and green spiral. Jane is irresistibly drawn to lick it. The Juju's asshole candy magic turns her into Trickster Jane, super powered and super peachy. Trickster Jane flies from Loka to Lomax and spreads the enchantment to Jake. They then take Aerosol Sprite with them to Durst and infect Roxy. Roxy is alcoholic, and has carefully stayed sober for months despite living in a house full of booze. But as Trickster Roxy, she instantly falls off the wagon. When she takes Jane and Jake home to pick up Fafetta Sprite, the Tricksters and the Tagalong Courtyard Droll all get shit-faced and throw bottles around. The last stop on their candy giggle rampage is Low-Tack, where they turn Dirk into Trickster Dirk, but unlike the others, Dirk's mind is not altered by the Juju magic. Even after succumbing to the fabled peach birth trance of the joke bollocks, he is still unhappy and unable to pretend that all his personal problems have been solved. Arqueous Sprite meets Fafetta Sprite and has a pang of guilt for causing Nepeta's death, but his apology to the Nepeta half goes even worse than Aerosol Sprite's apology to the Faferi half. Their bickering makes Fafetta Sprite explode. The Tricksters alchemize a bunch of Zilly weapons from Cherubim folklore, including a warhammer that ends up with John during his session, a couple of Zilly rapping robots, and a disgusting surfeit of Zilly Santa figurines. Whatever else the kids do under the Trickster influence goes unrecorded. Caliborn next sees them suffering the after effects. This upsets him because he loved the Tricksters and wanted to see everything they did. With a bit of teamwork, a concept new to the antisocial child, he and Gamzee unlock the next two monitors. They combine their Chuckle Voodoos to send a care package to Archagent Jack Noir in the kids' session, who is still in jail on Prospect. The nobles come to in their quest crypts. Dirk and Roxy are in the crypt of Dursa's moon. Jake and Jane are in the crypt of Prospect's moon. They are lying on sacrificial slabs bearing the symbols of heart, void, hope, and life, and they have hangovers. They all know that they must die on their slabs in order to rise up, but the only thing they kill is time. They proceed to have the most uncomfortable long-distance feelings jam in the history of Paradox Space. It becomes clear that the nobles' enemies will slay them before they get to do it themselves. Jack Noir's care package contains Crowbar's crowbar and the instance of Little Cal that Gamzee gave to the droll when he arrived in the kids' session. When Jack looks into Little Cal's eyes, he's hypnotized and undergoes a completely bonkers transformation. He cuts his eyes out and puts Little Cal's eyes in his sockets. They change into Lord English's table stickball eyes. Jack saws off his shackled leg, glows with weird power, vaporizes half of Prospect around him, and emerges wielding the crowbar. Then he turns his crazy bastard gaze towards Prospect's moon and fires his mouth laser. Meanwhile, the Condesce turns her psionic tyrant gaze towards Dursa's moon and fires her eye lasers. Prospect and Dursa's moons blow up. The life lanterns on Loka also blow up. The kids die and ascend to godhood. Jane rises up as the Maid of Life. Jake rises up as the Page of Hope. Roxy rises up as the Rogue of Void. And Dirk rises up as the Prince of Heart. Jade and John's 3-year voyage is over. Their battleship bursts through the fourth wall that Jake left at the slab of Jaded Fool's ennui. Jade restores the Prospedian battleship to its proper size and sets it down on Lomax. The sprites disembark and fly out into the medium. Casey, the Viceroy Bubbles von Salamancer, raises an army of amphibian skeletons on Lomax for a purpose as of yet unseen. Now that she's back in a session, Jade can teleport again. She goes straight to the exploded remains of Prospect to meet her post-scratch parents. Finding the Archagent lunging at them with maniac intent, Jade stops him and teleports him to the edge of the furthest ring, where he won't be trouble to anyone for some time. This is the moment the Condess springs her trap. The Troll Queen inflicts a mixture of psychic powers on Jade, who has been part dog and susceptible to bronze-blooded animal communion since merging with Bexsprite. Jade goes Grimbark and falls under Condi's command. She locates the Crocker Corp tiara top and teleports it right onto Jane's head. The device corrupts Jane and flips her cuckoo fruitcake switch. From this moment on, Jade and Jane obey her imperious condescension. Among the exploded remains of Durce's moon, Dirk and Roxy face the Condess herself. But before Dirk can close the distance, Jade appears and teleports him to the edge of the furthest ring, where he will not trouble anyone for some time. Roxy makes no move. Meanwhile, Jane plants a spanking haymaker on Jake's old breadbasket and hauls his ass to Durce. Jade and Jane stick Roxy and Jake in separate jail cells on Durce. Where is John in all this? He's fast asleep on the battleship, having a lengthy and informative dream. He meets Vriska again in the furthest ring. Evidently, Vriska's mini-strife with Mina ended in a draw because they've combined their Ghost Army plans and are working together with Arania. It's still mostly Vriska's plan. Mina is happy as long as she gets to say she's in charge. Arania has given up her search for the ghost of Calliope, but it is convenient for the trio that their enemy seems to think he will find Calliope by following them. The Circuits are mind-jacking some troll ghost suckers and using the resulting crowds as bait to draw Lord English to areas of the ring where his terrible ghost-killing breath will crack space and fill the gaps in Vriska's treasure maps. They've sacrificed thousands of ghosts in this way. Soon they'll reach the treasure, which they hope to use as a weapon against the unstoppable Lord of Time. When John finds them, their treasure hunt has taken on a fun petticoat seagrift theme. Their pirate buddies include Tavros, Nepeta, and Feferi. Aradia and Solix are also on board as specialists. Solix is now fully alive after Aerosol Sprite took his dead half. John spends his whole dream sailing with the Gamblegants, hearing their stories and news. During the last leg of their voyage, Arania tells what she knows about the origin of Lord English. Arania begins by describing the cosmic, caligonous, serpentine mating dance of adult cherubim. One cherubim, after losing its mate, laid an egg on the dead, dry Earth and then flew away. Earth had been relocated to another universe. It now orbited a star nearing supernova. From the egg hatched Calliope and Caliborn. Like other cherubim, their personalities divided in infancy and began to vie for dominance over their body. But here the cherubim norms ended. For two reasons, Cal's childhood was not typical of their species. First, there was an enigmatic acolyte of Earth who prepared for their arrival, cared for them, and then locked them in a room for most of their lives. Second, they were fated to play Suburb, the game in which universes procreate. Such a willful creature as Caliborn would upset the balance of all paradox space if he were allowed to play this game. And so he did. Caliborn predominated over Calliope, who had hoped in vain that they would play together. Instead, Caliborn played alone. He entered a dead session the most solitary and empty and unwinnable kind. After a bunch of tedium, Caliborn made it to his denizen, Yaldabaoth. The god of monsters offered Caliborn the most radical choice any player could make. Either magnanimous martyrdom or constant conquest. When Caliborn chose the path of the conqueror, he was forced to prove himself in a unique challenge. His medium became a game of 8-ball pool. After 3 planets sank in the break, his task was to pocket the remaining 12 by propelling them into the singularity that was once Gaia. Each planet conquered rewarded him with a base-skinned leprechaun servant with silly time powers, and so by pocketing all the planets he assembled his entourage, the Felt. Winning the pool game unlocked Caliborn's true land, the land of colors and mayhem, where he would tool up and then face his denizen again. By defeating Yaldabaoth in battle, Caliborn earned the seemingly impossible boons of immortality and limitless power. His soul was then channeled into a juju that would bring unfathomable evil and destruction to any realm in which it materialized. There are critical gaps in Arania's knowledge of this last part. The path to the treasure ends in a memory of a green skull cave. The pirate crew disembark and enter the cave. On the way in, Arania tries to tell a story about a pair of legendary rings whose fates are intertwined. The Ring of Void was a Black Queen's ring of orbs no fold, whose wearer could vanish into obscurity. The Ring of Life, first discovered by travelers in a desert, could bring ghosts back to life. Vriska throws a fit because she realizes that the ring that Hussey was trying to give her was in fact the Ring of Life, and that was the same ring that Tavros and John later found in the same location. Vriska grills Tavros and orders him to help her look for the ring again. Tavros gets fed up with her unpleasantness and quits the expedition. Solix, Nepeta, and Feferi follow his lead, ollieing outie, while Vriska curses their mutiny. John reveals that he has the Ring of Life in the waking world. It came with him when he woke up last time, but he disappoints Vriska by not agreeing to give it to her. He doesn't like how she has trashed the afterlife to find this treasure, and he would rather decide freely what to do with the ring. Playtime is over. Vriska throws off her captain's overcoat, defends her actions as the greater good on a scale beyond measuring, Lord English destroys universes, remember, and leads them the rest of the way to the treasure. Vriska explains why they have been seeking this particular juju. It is a bit of loot that English got after slaying his denizen. He used it only once as a weapon. After that, it could only be used against him, so he buried it in the void where he thought it would not be found. Vriska doesn't know what it could be, but she hopes to wield it against Lord English and kill him for good. Mina, Arania, Aradia, and John watch as Vriska opens the chest and dumps the treasure out. It's a hole-in cannon, shaped like the Suburb House logo. Vriska says she invited Aradia to help move it with her rust-blooded telekinesis because it's intangible. This piques John's curiosity. He tries touching the house juju and puts his hand all the way through it. John's arm retroactively appears in many places throughout Homestuck canon, even in metafictions like the Midnight Crew adventure and the Mad Snacks Yo video game. Other characters never seem to notice the disembodied arms. Before John can retrieve his arm from the house thing, he gets blurry and disappears, denying Mina the coveted three-pointed hat trick. His sleeping body also disappears from the couch on the battleship. John begins to travel through canon space. He retroactively appears on the sidelines of several scenes in the Homestuck canon, even in metafictions. He is in each place for only a moment before disappearing and jumping to the next. He can't control the jumps. Caliborn has recruited the last Felt member, Cans. He reaches the 8-ball in his game of pool with planets when he is first haunted by the blue male hero ghost. At least, that is how Caliborn regards John for some reason. John isn't a ghost. They stare at each other until Cans clocks John out of the frame. John reappears on Lomax and catches a break from his involuntary cannon hopping. He gets his bearings and realizes he's arrived in the post-scratch medium. He rests at the slab of Jaded Fool's ennui. Rose, Dave, Karkat, Kanaya, Terezi, Gamzee, and the mayor's 3-year voyage is over. The meteor flies out of the furthest ring and into the medium at great speed. Gamzee is the only player who is ready to go where destiny will take him. The others are woefully unequipped for what they will face in this session. Worst off are Rose and Terezi, whose decisions have led to substance abuse and clouded their abilities. Rose became alcoholic and in denial about it. Terezi fell into kismesitude with the unruly jester, who hooked her on the sweet drink and eroded her self-esteem. After she got Arania to restore her eyesight the next time they met, Terezi regretted fixing what was never broken. At age 16, the Seers are a mess. Everyone is on the roof, debating how to get off the rock when Grimbark Jade surprises them with the answer. She teleports them all to Lomax, and they fall on the grass next to John, all except Gamzee, who remains on the meteor. John is thrilled to finally see his friends. 5 more characters are converging on the medium from 4 directions, and 3 of them are Jack Noir. First, the Sovereign Slayer has been flying behind the meteor for 3 years, the Prospidian Monarch hot on his heels. They still wear the 4-fold rings that give them Beck's powers and loyalty to Jade. Second, Dirk and the Archagent, corrupted by Little Cal, are flying back from where Jade dumped them outside the Inciposphere. Third, the cyborg Spade Slick is rocketing into town, carrying the Golden Q-Staff and the entire Felt. Wait, what? After the author threw him into the sea, Spade Slick climbed back into Hussey's house. Slick finds his caregiver shot to death by Lord English, who tossed the murder weapon and left. Slick picks up the weapon and finds the author's servant, Mrs. Paint. Miss Paint retrieves Slick's personals, among which is Dai's voodoo doll. The doll moves you to a different timeline when you remove a pin or stick one in. The corresponding Felt member will be dead in this timeline if the pin is in the doll, alive or not. Slick gets the idea of using Lord English's own gang against him. He pulls every pin except Snowman's. The Felt stand before him and accept his command. He appoints Mrs. Paint as their new 8-ball. Arthur, the censure butler Lucis, tags along too. Spades and his new crew climb through the 5th wall between the author's place and the ruin of Doc Scratch's apartment. Scratch's home is not a comfortable base of operations now that it's inside the Green Sun, so Crowbar leads Slick to the Judgment Clock, which doubles as an emergency exit. Slick loads the entire gang into Biscuit's oven and steps through the clock. He opens the other side and pops out of the Till Death server box in the furthest ring. He spots the glow of Skya in the distance and blasts off towards it. Disc 2 of Homestuck ends. But there is no Disc 3, putting Caliborn in full control of the narrative. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed this video, the original recaps were written by Rafe Saltman, link in the description. If you want to see the next Homestuck summary, covering the first few acts and intermissions of Act 6 Act 6, hit that subscribe button to be notified of when the next one is posted. There's also plenty of new content coming to this channel soon, including a video about Death Note, and a video revealing several facts about Daring Do that most fans don't even know. If either of those interest you, slam that subscribe button. With that bit out of the way, I'll see you in the next video. Ciao!